At the beginning of the film, we are shown a man named Aiden. This man appeared to be depressed and on the verge of committing suicide. The scene then switches to Aiden's life prior to his suicide attempt. He strangely heard a commotion outside, as well as the sound of people banging on the door. When he turned on the TV, he was confused because he saw an emergency broadcast appeared. At the same time, he even heard the sound of chaos outside his apartment. As Aiden exited to the balcony, he saw a helicopter that was out of control and crashed into one of the buildings. He also noticed there were people running in fear below his apartment. Then, as Aiden was panicking, he was suddenly approached by someone who entered his apartment, who turned out to be his neighbor. His neighbor told him to hide before he rushed to the toilet. Aiden found it strange when he noticed a bite mark on the back of his neighbor's neck. After that, the whole city began to know about the outbreak. The zombie outbreak news was being shown on TV at the time. According to the news, the zombie virus would be spread by blood from scratches and bites. Plus, a person infected with the zombie virus will bleed in the eye, scream, and engaged in cannibalism. Aiden then became suspicious of his neighbor when he noticed his neighbor's eyes were beginning to turn red, and he immediately chased him away.
Oh God!
I can't help you here. You have to leave.
Fortunately, that person still had consciousness despite being infected at that time. As soon as his neighbor came out, that guy was instantly attacked by zombies in the corridor. After that, Aiden seems very confused, and at the same time the news advises staying at home, keeping a safe distance from each other, or better yet, not seeing anyone at all. He then received messages from his father who was going to his place, but it turned out that something was blocking his father's journey. Aiden tried to call his father, but the connection was lost. As the day passed, Aiden began marking the number of days he had been in lockdown on the mirror with a marker. On the 6th day, he kept himself busy by cleaning his apartment, which was followed by the news reports stating that in large metropolitan areas had lost access to water.
Major metropolitan areas that they are losing access.
At night, he spends time telling stories in front of his laptop camera, which he records on video for his vlogs.
Stay away!
You hear that? It's constant.
After 2 weeks passed, Aiden began to run out of drinking water, and at the same time, his vlog had reached 16 episodes. From this point, he became frustrated and hallucinated since he had been in the room for a long time and not doing anything. Physical burden began to appear on his face as well as a thickening beard. He pretended to perform music without sound, and playing baseball as a result of his hallucinations. Finally, because he was already too upset, the activity finished with him smashing the glass. Unexpectedly, the sound of shattered glass unintentionally attracted zombies, who suddenly appeared and fell from the vent of his apartment. Luckily, he managed to hit the zombie with his baseball bat. He then used his surfboard to block the vent. As time passed, Aiden was still doing the same activities every day. Until one day, he got a voice message from his mother. From the voicemail, his mother said that his sister had been out of town before the road was closed. Aiden was advised by his mother to go to his sister's house. His mother also informed him that she and Aiden's father were doing a lockdown at the office, and then he heard the sound of chaos at his mother's place. Aiden started to get fed up by all of this, so he decided to go out and smash the zombies. But when he was outside, the reality did not match his expectations, and he was chased by the scary zombies right away. But fortunately, he managed to return to his apartment safely. And as he looked through the peephole, he saw a zombie staring at the door while calling him to go outside.
Come here.
After more than a month had passed, the entire city's electricity began to run out. Then we are returned to the initial scene when Aiden was about to commit suicide. He began to lose hope on everything at the time, and he decided to end his life by hanging himself. But then, he saw the figure of a woman who lived across his apartment. From that very moment, Aiden decided to cancel his suicide and he began to find his purpose to live. The next day, he started communicating with the woman using a piece of paper. Through this communication, he found the woman's name was Eva. Aiden feels very excited because he can still communicate with other people, after being alone for over a month. He then told Eva that she was the first normal person he had seen since the zombies attacked. When it starts to rain in the evening, Aiden finally decides to take a shower after a long period of time without bathing, and shave his whole beard. The next day, he continued to communicate with Eva. Then, he threw a baseball that had been tied to a rope in order to deliver drinks to Eva. Then, out of nowhere, a zombie who looks to be good at climbing approaches Eva.
Stop! No!
Aiden then immediately lured the zombie, then led him into his apartment. But at the same time, the other zombies attempted to break into his apartment. As soon as the zombie outside stopped banging on the door, Aiden grabbed his baseball bat and killed that zombie. The story then continued into the night, with Aiden, who had ran out of food, decided to go outside and take the keys from his neighbor who had died in front of his house earlier. As what he expected, he was being chased by zombies at that moment. He then rushes into his neighbor's house to get the remaining food. He also didn't forget to take other necessities. However, just as he was about to take the rope, a zombie emerged out of nowhere and ran towards him. Fortunately, Aiden was able to kill him. Despite having to deal with zombies, Aiden finally managed to get the necessities and left safely. Based on the items that he had taken, there were also 2 walkie-talkies that could still be used. After that, he decided to go down and send the walkie-talkie to Eva's apartment. He then hides first because there are many zombies running around below. After that, Aiden finally managed to throw the walkie-talkie into Eva's house. The next morning, Aiden hears Eva's voice on the walkie-talkie, and he was very happy since he could finally talk to Eva. Eva also thanked Aiden for his struggle the whole time. As the story progressed, Aiden began to notice that the food stock was running out. He then decided to look for it by going through the air vent. And it turned out that there was 1 dead zombie there. Aiden then finds an apartment that is still not contaminated by the zombies. He also found a lot of food. But then a man who was still normal appeared. It turns out that he is the owner of the apartment. This old man's name is Edward. Following that, Aiden began to talk with him, and Edward finally allowed Aiden to take some of his food. But it wasn't that simple. Aiden was suddenly beaten by Edward until he passed out. In fact, Edward deliberately hit Aiden because he had his own specific purpose. It turned out that he did it all to have Aiden devoured by his wife, who had turned into a zombie. The reason Edward did this because he loved his wife very much. Aiden then protested and begged Edward not to do that to him. But Edward instead offered painkillers to Aiden, so he wouldn't feel pain when Edward's wife ate him. Following then, Edward heard the sound of people banging on his door. When Edward rushed to his door, Aiden tried to get free and he eventually succeeded. He then dodged Edward's attack, and threw him at his own wife. After that, Eva informed that a zombie had managed to enter her house. Aiden, who heard this, immediately went down and shot 1 zombie there. After shooting him, suddenly, several zombies jumped from the balcony to chase him. Aiden then immediately ran away and climbed onto the balcony under Eva's balcony, and yelling at her to get down. In the end, they were able to be together, and run away from the zombies and back to Aiden's apartment. From here, we can see they need to deal with a lot of zombies along their way. Finally, Eva managed to safely get into Aiden's apartment. Aiden, on the other hand, was still trying to fight the zombies outside before he managed to get inside. He felt as if he had been bitten on his body, causing him to immediately urge Eva to kill him, but Eva refused since she already loved him.
I'm begging you, Aiden, no, stop!
As a result, Aiden ultimately decided to commit suicide by jumping off the building. However, when he just took off his shirt, they were surprised to find that there was no bite mark on his body. Before the film ends, they hear that zombies are still trying to break into the house. And they tried to hold it on. At that moment, they promise to stick and get through it together. And the film ends. To be honest, despite the fact that the film started with a few of slow scenes, but as the story progressed, many interesting parts start to appear. Coupled with the appearance of an old man who added to the tension in the film.